Well, that was frustrating. But yeah, don't really worry about too much about soy lecithin. Medium chain triglycerides, remember guys, those are the ones that don't have to use transporters. So in theory, they can move a little bit faster into the body. But in reality, when you give individuals MCT oils, yes, they can use it as a fuel, but it doesn't increase their cognition or performance. It's really, really over marketed and sold. Pancamic acid is fascinating because it's another type of B vitamin that in reality doesn't really seem to have, it's not as important as you'd think. Might have a little bit of positive effect on general health, nothing to really worry about. And it's not something you guys see marketed to you guys anyways, because you're too young. We say that for the old folks. Phosphatidylserine is fascinating because it helps with not just overall cognitive functioning, because it's going to be incorporated a little bit into our wonderful cellular membranes, but it also helps a little bit with dampening cortisol production. Some folks use this before they go to sleep to allow them to obviously stay asleep. And then other folks are going to utilize this in pre-workouts to decrease the natural amount of cortisol that's going to be produced from doing the stressful event that happens to be training. Now, phosphorus is obviously important as an energy carrier and a mineral. In reality, supplementing with it isn't really worth it because you're probably going to get in more than enough from just eating a mixed diet. Pyruvate, which is going to be, remember guys, that last step of glycolysis is not really going to be a limiting factor that we're really needing to supplement with to enhance performance. Some folks can play with it. Can make you feel a little funky if you do large boluses of it. Now, baking soda, and I'm not referring to cocaine, is actually going to be a pretty useful type of buffer. Now, by taking that, remember guys, that's going to help us buffer out and keep our blood pH levels higher. Now, this is something you're going to have to take in usually divided doses, just a better way to go, because large boluses of sodium bicarbonate is also a potent laxative. So individuals that are doing things that are really anaerobically glycolytic, so 400-meter runners, 800-meter runners, they're going to actually get some significant improvements in their times by utilizing the supplement. However, they do run the risk of disaster pants. So you win some, you'll lose some. But if you know you've got a competition coming where you've got to just go hard for anywhere in the 30 seconds to 2 to maybe 3 minutes range, this is where sodium bicarbonate can be useful. This is something that I never played with other than once or twice because of, once again, the GI upset and the wonderful risk of suddenly wearing your brown pants. So it is a supplement you can use. I personally am not the biggest proponent of it, whereas sodium citrate has relatively similar effects on when it comes to trying to be able to buffer a little bit, but isn't going to really help that much with performance. Vanadium is going to be another mineral that might help a little bit with insulin sensitivity, like chromium. Probably not going to help you too much. I really like this one, just wheat germ oil, which is literally just a fat extract from wheat. I have no idea how this became so popular. I probably should do a deep dive on it, but yeah, it doesn't really work like you'd think. Now, let's talk about one of the fun facts of how nutritional supplements is sketchy. So first thing we need to talk about is the joys of fairy dusting. Now, notice guys, in this supplement, okay, 20 grams of it, we have just under 19.5 grams of it comes in a proprietary blend. Now, when we're looking at this list, in theory, everything is going to be listed by weight, okay? So obviously what happens to make up the most weight comes first. Now, looking at the list of the different supplements here, okay? First one is maltodextrin. What's maltodextrin? What's maltodextrin? Yeah, it's just a carbohydrate. So what do you think is cheaper to put in there? Put in 19,440 milligrams of maltodextrin and then 5.85 milligrams of everything else? you got creatine, you got beta alanine, you got taurine, you got glutamine, you got tyrosine. You've got a list of different supplements that can potentially be relatively useful. Citrulline is also going to kind of have vasodilatory effects like beetroot, just beetroot is more effective. And you're typically, for citrulline, for dosage to be effective, you need 6 grams of it. It's coming after glutamine, taurine, and beta alanine. Don't think that mathematically there's any chance that it can be 6 grams, and much less if the beta alanine is that high, sweet Jesus, you're going to feel like you got meth or you've had meth because you're going to be scratching your face from all the stuff going on there. Does fairy dusting make sense to you guys? And particularly the issues with it? Awesome. So now let's talk about off-label. On the right here, guys, we have what's known as Ultimate Orange. When I was actually younger than you guys are now, Ultimate Orange was like the supplement that people would get on. And yes, you've got essentially a powdered form of a multivitamin, but can you guys read what that says right there? Okay. What is that, Cass?
I can tell you what it says. I'm not quite sure what it is.
Okay, so what does it say, Cass?
It says ephedra extract.
Yeah, it's fucking ephedra. Ephedra is one hell of a stimulant. Underneath it is, notice 1,3-dimethylamylamine, which is DMAA, which is illegal also to have in supplements these days. This was when the late 90s were a fun time, guys. And on top of that, then you get the caffeine to go with it. So you are fucking ramped. But supposedly, I'm sorry for swearing, supposedly the first run of Ultimate Orange also had an oral anabolic called Anavar in it. And Anavar not just gives you increased muscle mass, but increases aggression. So people would buy this and then smash freaking weight and be like, this is the best pre-workout ever, and then keep using it. But what they did was brilliant, which is when the Food and Drug Administration kind of got whiff that maybe they're put a little extra spice in their pre-workout. They only put it in the first round. So the first round was sold out, used, and consumed. The second round didn't have it in there, but they had already gotten Eczema Bros hooked because like, dude, I made such great gains on the supplement. I need to keep doing it. And so off-label additions have been one of the major issues in supplement companies, specifically the ones that don't do third-party testing and otherwise, where a number of individuals have accidentally contaminated themselves because they didn't know it was on there. Nice. Interesting. We'll have to drill down on that a little bit later. It'll be fascinating to have that conversation, but could have also been the dosage. Now, we've got a couple different things that I'm going to have you guys look into in a little bit, and notice we've got a whole lot of different options that we're going to have you guys work in your groups of. But first, I want us to go ahead and finish up talking through the rest of the slides a little bit. Specifically, the supplement industry is not very well regulated. We referenced it earlier on, but I want to bring it up again, guys. There can be things in there that's not supposed to be there. Unfortunately, it is very much so buyer beware, and be very careful if you're a drug tested athlete that you know what you're putting in your body, because it is one of those things that you can accidentally contaminate yourself because you trusted somebody else and let you utilize it. Also, magnesium oxide is really poorly bioavailable and actually is more likely to cause being a laxative. Now, some supplements, when we combine them together, is going to have more of an increase in our performance. That's the entire concept behind using a pre-workout. Now, the key thing is we want to think, is this going to give us a real positive effect that in turn is going to increase our performance that's worth it? So we've talked about a number of things that do have efficacy. You could just do the kitchen sink before you go and you train, or we can be a little bit more deliberate and think things through. So if you're a long distance athlete, yeah, maybe you want to do some beetroot with some caffeine, with some carbohydrate to help increase your exercise performance. If you are kind of a middle distance, short distance sprinter, that's where you maybe want to do that beta alanine and also do the sodium bicarbonate loading before your competition, beta alanine far before it. So you're going to be able to maintain that performance a little bit longer. Now, like anything else, guys, keeping in mind that different supplements are going to have differing effects on the body, and individual response is key. Some folks are going to have massive response to doing different types of supplements. Some folks are going to have very small responses to using supplements, or they have side effects that make it so it's not even worth it. Now, what we can do to decrease our risk, first and foremost, make sure we're talking with someone that knows what they're doing. Make sure they understand what's the point of doing it. That's why, like I said, I'm a big proponent of doing single ingredient supplementation, so you know exactly what you're putting in yourself. Okay, making sure that it is certified and coming from labs that are not going to be adding anything in there that shouldn't be in there. Okay, make sure it has exactly what you want. You can obviously go ahead and look and see what supplements have already had a little bit of things going on there, and look at the product itself. It says proprietary blend, run the hell away. They can be hiding behind the label of what's really in there. If they obviously don't have clear markations, or they honestly, they're relatively new, fly by night, don't do third-party testing, don't do any type of good manufacturing essentially approaches, don't do it. Save your money and potentially your health with not utilizing supplements that aren't going to give us that much efficacy. If anything, give us greater risk. Now, let's double back a little bit and get to where we can see my wonderful list of all the fun types of supplements that you guys can go ahead and potentially utilize. Now, we are going to have, obviously, you guys go and divide up into a variety of groups. We do not have that many groups, so we can have folks do that many different groupings. So if you guys don't mind, in the chat, let's go ahead and yes, we're going to go with 5 different rooms. Okay, so I'm going to hit pause on the record and let's see what you guys came up with. So that is a huge dosage. Usually it's in international units I use, not grams per day of growth hormone people are going to use. But yeah, and don't forget about the joys of liver issues and other hypertrophy or GI, sometimes leading to requiring resection of your intestines. All right. Good job, Paige's group, with breaking down CBD. The supplement version of CBD is not going to have THC, but obviously doing it with marijuana. What's fascinating is I've actually gotten to meet with a researcher that actually does work on the use of CBD. And his line with CBD is like wine, in that there's the terpene content. It seems to be a really big component of what does or doesn't have efficacy for that, pain, anxiety, etc. So his line to me, which is, if you find a CBD product that just really works for you, then buy all of it, because like wine, it changes literally from year to year in the exact same geographical location because of fluctuations in just the natural seasons they see. TB 500 and BPC 157 are both used to potentially help with effectively improving lean mass and help essentially with recovery of soft tissue and otherwise. It's something that's definitely being used off label, and the research really is only in rodents, so I would be a little nervous, but you see a lot of bros playing around with that as a means to help with performance and recovery. And then my pro hormone group, good job, folks. And yes, heart and liver dosage is going to be varying. That's why I talked about 1AD, Masterdrol, Superdrol, which were literally just one enzymatic change away from being like testosterone, Dianabol, and other potent anabolic substances. So Hadley and Jessica, where's your guys' comment on magnesium threonate? And the other issue with magnesium 3 and 8 is the fact that the research in it is currently also pretty much only done in animals. So there just needs to be more done in humans. Obviously, we went through a lot of different supplements. Here's the other ones that we didn't touch on, just so you guys have had that information. The Racetam family is fascinating because they're nootropics. Phenylpyractam is actually illegal in Olympic competition because it helps enhance aerobic performance and cold tolerance. Aniracetam, was it oxiracetam, pyractam typically potentially help a little bit more with memory and performance there. Methylated folate is one that's just more bioavailable, specifically when we get into some of the genetic effects on how we're going to have ability to essentially take up one nutrient better than another. Selective androgen receptor mediator, SARMs, is something that's also becoming very popular in bro culture, specifically Austrain. I think it's like MK277, some nonsense like that. But effectively what it is the idea of like a SERM, selective estrogen receptor modulator. It's a supplement you're going to take that is going to work like testosterone without taking testosterone, but it can still have the same type of negative effects on hormone suppression otherwise, because it's not that selective to where it's only working on androgen receptors where you want it, which would be muscle mass, bone mass, and otherwise. So steer clear. Nicotinamide mononucleotide, and that's NMN and NR, nicotinamide riboside, are going to be potentially things to help with increasing NADH levels and overall mitochondrial functioning. I'm not sure if it works yet. It's definitely something that a lot of people have started to sell as a supplement for body optimization and energy production, but I don't know if I quite believe the hype. What questions do you guys have? Anything you guys would like me to cover for supplementation? Anything else you want me to go more in depth, or you guys feeling good to go and tired of listening to me talk to a screen?
I have a question about beta alanine.
Yeah, go for it.
Would you take it whether or not, if you're, even though you weren't going to do physical activity like work out that day, would you still take like 8 milligrams of it a day?
Yeah, so the basic idea with something like beta alanine is you're trying to maximize your muscle stores of them. Now, obviously, if your muscles are being more metabolically active because you're using them, in theory, you be more efficient to take it up. But that's one of those things you just want to make sure you're taking it consistently. So you've got that peaked out effectively level of it. Kind of the same thing with creatine, of taking that pretty much every day. Obviously, if you skip a day, it's not going to completely mess you over, but you want to make sure you're taking it with a pretty decent amount of consistency. So yeah, creatine, beta alanine, beetroot, sodium bicarbonate, all of those things are things you need to make sure you're taking consistently, so you're going to get efficacy for it. Doing creatine once, beta alanine once is not going to give you any effect. Doing sodium bicarbonate at once can definitely help with performance, but also work as a potent laxative. Same thing with the beetroot nitrates, minus the laxative part, that might help regardless, but you're probably going to get the best effect if you're taking it consistently.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime, Josh. Any other questions? Anything else you guys want me to go ahead and talk through? You guys are bored to tears and ready to go home? Well, you're probably already home. Just do what you actually want to do. Well, I guess if no one has any questions, comments, concerns, you guys have a great night.